Welcome back to Counter Culture. I'm Andy. This is Pastor Mark, better known as the Silver Fox.
Because I just had a revelation
You did?
that my hair is silver.
It was quite the long revelation.
It was quite a long revelation.
Coming-
It has gotten silver, we determined, in the last several years of being down here at Drash Ministries.
So,
We're not naming anybody who caused that gray hair,
No.
but
but it went from you were
her
pretty
initials are Summer Christie.
you were pretty adamant that someone else caused this until
I know.
you took a good look
And
at
then
the
I was
TV.
like, hey, it
and you
doesn't
said,
look too bad.
It looks pretty good, and then you wanted
yes.
all the credit.
Well, yes.
There's a great lesson in that. Do we not?
If there's a fault, then it's someone else's problem. If it's something good, then I did it.
Isn't that funny? Because I think I work that way with God. You know,
Yes.
you're
Yeah.
complaining,
God, why are you doing this? And
crying,
he does
whining.
something really good to us. We're like, oh, I did that.
It was all me.
It was all me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Didn't we hear that a few years ago? You didn't do that. You didn't do that. You didn't build that. You didn't make. Oh, okay. That's another story.
We live.
We won't get into that. That's something Mel would want to talk about.
We live in a counterculturized
Yes.
society.
Yes.
Right? So you and I went horseback riding.
Yes.
We took our first
Ride
ride together.
into the sunset. We did not sing Happy Trails, though.
No, I was on Dreamer and you were on Candy.
Candy loves her Uncle Mark.
Beautiful, beautiful song involved in there somewhere, right? But we were riding and we had a great ride.
Poncho and Lefty.
That's
Cisco and Poncho.
the Lone Ranger and Tonto.
Right.
Right.
Along Cassidy.
There's a whole bunch of Tom and Jerry. Probably more where we
Martin
were.
and Lewis is more like it. All right.
Yes.
Anyway.
So
Carry on.
We were.
Dreamer and Candy.
Yes, we went for a
Andy
really
and Mark.
nice little ride.
Yes,
right?
it was
And we got back.
wonderful.
Got into my pasture, and we were heading back to the house. And you said, "I got an object lesson for you." It was a fantastic object lesson. So tell our viewers what you told me.
We were in a path. Animals always take the path of least resistance. Out in the wild, anything. They like humans, take path of least resistance. But anyway, cows will follow each other.
Yep.
And they have they have a pecking order. That's chickens. Chicken language with cows. So it's a mooing order, I guess you could say.
It's a moving order. Yes.
Moving order. And so, but anyway, we were on a path, a well-worn path, by the way. That we'll get into that one too here in a minute. That might be another counterculture. But anyway, it's coming to us. Anyway, I asked Andy, I said, how deep is your path? Because Candy was following Dreamer. That's what she did. And I didn't make her move any faster. We were enjoying the moment. And I said to Andy, how deep is your path? Because it's a lot of times, especially with dairy cows, I understand this, is that the cows will follow the path so much that eventually what happens is it starts building like a wall. Building up a wall. And so the question is, how deep is your path? How close are you following the Lord? That are you following him enough that the path is worn and that the sides are built up because you're following following Jesus?
Yeah, and I mean the imagery and the things that came to mind when you said that, right?
Yes.
Being the object lesson person, I was just ecstatic about the whole thing and been thinking about that ever since, right? Because you can look at that from the bad side, right? So let's take a bad side first, which is that you can get to doing the same thing, right? I know people that every morning that they have existed, they have woken up, had their coffee, their oatmeal, their toast, right? And they just have the same thing. They sit down, they read the daily bread, right? And it's
or
just,
the paper,
or whatever it is.
You know, paper.
Right?
They used to have
Do the
papers,
crossword-
real papers.
Yes, they used to have real papers.
Now you get them so you can start.
They pick up their phone and they read the paper.
Read the news. Read the news. There you go.
But like you can get into a rut, right? I was looking, so I walked down in my pasture, and
know what a rut is? It's a grave with the ends cut out.
Oh, that's beautiful. right? I was looking at my pasture for some of those, found some good examples of what you were saying, right? And but the problem is on the path, right? If the cows stay on the path, within about 6 inches on either side of the path, there's fantastic grass.
Yes.
There is great stuff, but they get in that path and walk right past the good grass. Right, they walk right past the very thing they probably need at some moments, right? Because it's just about getting from one place to the next, and this is what we do, this is what we do, this is what we do, right? And so I thought about that from this side of how often do you see that within Christian believers, right? We're so in a rut, we're so in a path, we're getting ready for Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. Churches have such a deep rut on these things.
We've never done it that way before.
Right? So as we look at this culture, right, and we look at being counterculture, sometimes the whole key to being counterculture is this whole idea, can you get off the path? Right? But what you just said is, you know what, sometimes it's a grave
with the ends kicked out. So I'm thinking of some scriptures that are coming to mind.
Yep.
Jesus tells us to follow him. Certainly the Sadducees, the Pharisees, you can't follow that. It's fine if you follow him as long as he does
what he's on the path.
Is on the path.
I like that.
So now we get into where the thought came to my mind is when Jesus says, "You have heard it said, but I tell you." The "but I tell you" is the grass on the side. Come on now, preach it, preach it.
You have heard it said is the
path.
Have
heard it said is the path, which is not bad.
It's not.
Consider the old paths, the ancient ways. That's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
Because the path will get you somewhere. The cows are following a path into the barn where there is food, where there is safety, et cetera, et cetera. There is shelter. But it's okay sometimes this kind of goes back to the rest thing that I did earlier. Sometimes getting into that grass is the rest. Like, we like to be on the mountaintop, but there's no grass up on the mountains. I've been to the Rocky Mountains and stuff.
Not a lot
There's no
there.
grass up there. There's lichens and other stuff like that. There is some small vegetation, but the grass is down in the valleys. That's where we grow. That's where we learn. So it is interesting. And there's something about years ago, a friend of mine experienced. She says, "I experienced you as a well-worn path." Now and she meant as a compliment that you have gone the way, you know the way, and that others will be able to follow you in the path. So there's a lot of nuances of this path analogy that we could get into, and none of them are bad. None of them are. I mean, they just are what they are. We'll just leave. They just are. That we need to be on the path, but it's okay sometimes to stop and eat the grass on the side of the path, to try something new, to get some. Sometimes that new thing might be the very thing. It's like, wow.
Yes.
And then there's something to say for following that path. And hopefully we're not just following, but as those cows, we're going to take this even farther. As those cows are going, someone else is following, because the cow doesn't necessarily, let's say the cow is about 5 cows back, is not necessarily seeing the cow in front of him.
Nope.
But he's, way in front of him, who's leading.
A leader.
But he's following one right in front of him. He knows. You've done this with trail rides.
Yep.
Candy was just following Dreamer because that's what she wanted to do that day, and I didn't make her do anything else. But so there's a lot there with being on the path. And Jesus, what is he called? He says, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." What did they call him before they were called Christians? They were in the way. Okay. Now sometimes God, I'm in the way, God, and then there's other, I'm in the way while I'm in the way. It's kind of a funny thing.
Kyle ahead of me's in the way.
So there, and sometimes people get in our way of following the way. So this is really good. We're like all over the place with this. This is. You ought to get something out of this, if nothing. There's something for everybody today. But following that path, that way is a good way.
Yes.
And even the cows have gone that way because they've determined it's a good way. They didn't go through the briars. They didn't go through the thickets. They said, "This is take my yoke upon you, for my way is easy. My yoke is easy. My way is And is it but I've had some times where it wasn't easy. But I've often said this. I would rather go through something with Jesus than go through something without Jesus.
Amen. I love I love this whole analogy. You know, when you're walking your pastures every day and you're starting to look at it and starting to see it, right? There are areas where that path is actually the safest way in a place, right? And again, it's not. There's brush on either side, cliffs, there's rocks, there's whatever. It's not about green grass. It's just simply the safest path.
Yes, right.
And my cows, it's funny. They never try to walk side by side or go past one of them.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
They just walk the pathway, right? But the pathway also leads somewhere.
Yes.
It's not that these are willy-nilly paths in the middle of a field, and you're like, oh, there will be a path that goes from one gate to the next gate, right? There's a path that goes back to the water. There's a path that goes to the woods so they can get, shelter, and they can get... These paths go somewhere. There's a purpose, right? As kids, we used to walk the paths and just to see where they go. Like it was a game.
Yes,
Where walk it all around and stay on the path, right?
Yeah.
There's so much good that actually is about the path, right? But if we're not careful, the path can also become a stumbling block.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right, to what we're doing.
Yeah.
If you get the path like you're talking about that has the edges on it, and you try to run in that, you trip up all the time. Right? It's got the edge. There's no room, right, to go to the left or the right. There's no room to get out of danger.
Yep.
And those things become important. So, all right, if you're going
to... And how do you make that path? You make the way by walking it.
Over and over
and over again. So we stay in the path with Christ. He's made the path, but how do we make that path in our own life is we walk it with him and we follow him where he's leading us.
Beautiful. So let's stop it there. I'm going to come back next time and talk about that a little bit more. We'll see you next time on Counterculture.
Grace and peace.